Imagine standing at a crossroads. Two paths stretch before you. One feels safe, familiar, almost automatic. The other seems uncertain, maybe even risky, but it carries the spark of possibility. Which way do you turn? In that very moment, your entire future bends. Life is nothing more than a series of decisions, some small, some life-altering. What to say, what to pursue, what to let go of. Every choice you make is like placing a brushstroke on the canvas of your destiny. But here's the challenge. How do you ensure each stroke adds clarity instead of chaos? How do you make smart decisions every time, not just once in a while? Think about it. The job you take, the relationships you nurture, the habits you build, every outcome traces back to a single decision. And yet, so often, we choose based on impulse, fear, or convenience. What if instead you could choose with clarity, wisdom, and confidence every single time? This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that the power to shape your future is already in your hands. Smart decisions aren't accidents, they're crafted. They come from awareness, courage, and a commitment to growth. So, let me ask you, are you ready to master the art of decision-making? To stop drifting and start steering? To break free from hesitation and build a life you're proud of, one choice at a time? Because once you learn how to decide wisely, consistently, courageously, and with conviction, you'll unlock a future bigger than you ever imagined. And it all starts here. Clarity is the foundation of every powerful decision. When you know exactly what you want, every choice becomes easier, sharper, and more intentional. Think about the times you felt stuck, paralyzed between options, unsure of which way to turn. Most often, it wasn't because the options were impossible to evaluate. It was because you weren't clear about your own priorities. Without clarity, even the best opportunities can feel overwhelming. With it, however, your path shines like a beacon, guiding you with certainty. Clarity creates confidence because it strips away the noise. Imagine walking into a crowded room filled with voices, all pulling your attention in different directions. That's what life feels like without clarity. Chaotic, confusing, distracting. Now imagine turning down the volume until only one clear voice remains, the voice of your true desire, your purpose. That voice is clarity, and when you hear it, hesitation fades, and confidence takes its place. Clarity is not just knowing what you don't want, but boldly defining what you do. It's saying, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, this is what matters most to me. That declaration becomes your compass. Every time a decision arises, you don't have to start from scratch. You measure it against your clarity, and the answer reveals itself. When clarity meets decision-making, you no longer chase what impresses others or settle for what feels convenient. Instead, you choose what aligns with your vision. That alignment fuels confidence because it removes second-guessing. Even if challenges appear, you trust your choice because it's rooted in your truth. And that trust builds resilience, making you unstoppable in the pursuit of your goals. In moments of pressure, the instinct to react quickly can feel overwhelming. Someone criticizes you, a problem arises, or an unexpected challenge shakes your routine, and before you even realize it, words leave your mouth or actions take shape that you later regret. This is the danger of reacting without reflection. But when you pause, just for a breath, a heartbeat, a moment of stillness, you give yourself the priceless gift of wisdom. The pause is where clarity gathers and emotion cools, where instinct transforms into intention. Think of the pause as a bridge between impulse and intelligence. On one side is the heat of the moment, anger, fear, frustration, or excitement. On the other side is perspective, balance, and control. Without the bridge, you leap blindly, often crashing into consequences you didn't intend. With the bridge, you cross carefully, seeing more clearly what lies ahead. That bridge is built in silence, in choosing not to react immediately, but to breathe, to observe, and to decide consciously. The pause doesn't have to be long. Sometimes it's as brief as counting to 3, taking one deep breath, or stepping back for a few minutes before responding. Yet in that short space everything changes. Emotions settle, thoughts align, and wisdom whispers where chaos once shouted. Leaders, thinkers and creators throughout history have mastered the art of the pause, not because they lacked passion, but because they understood that true strength comes from control. By pausing, you protect your relationships, safeguard your opportunities and preserve your inner peace. You stop giving power to impulse and start reclaiming authority over your own choices. Wisdom lives in the pause, because it is there that you shift from being driven by circumstance to being guided by intention. Every decision you make has two voices competing for attention, the voice of immediate comfort and the voice of long-term vision. Comfort whispers, take the easy road, avoid the challenge, choose what feels good right now. Vision speaks more quietly but with far greater power, reminding you of who you want to become and what you're working toward. The tension between these voices is where your destiny is shaped. When you choose short-term comfort, you may feel temporary relief, but it often comes at the cost of progress. Skipping the workout feels easier than showing up, but it delays your health goals. Spending impulsively feels rewarding in the moment, but it pushes financial freedom further away. Saying yes to convenience might bring instant gratification, but it risks long-term regret. Comfort satisfies now, but vision sustains forever. Aligning your decisions with long-term vision means lifting your eyes beyond the present moment. It means asking yourself, will this choice move me closer to the life I want to live 5 years from now? 10 years from now? If the answer is yes, then even if the path feels uncomfortable today, you know it's the right one. The discipline to choose vision over comfort is the discipline that builds empires, careers, relationships, and legacies. The greatest achievers are not those who always had the easiest path, but those who consistently chose alignment with their vision, even when it demanded sacrifice. Comfort never leads to greatness, it only delays it. Vision, on the other hand, pulls you forward, fuels your persistence, and rewards you with a sense of purpose no shortcut could ever provide. Every time you align with vision, you honor your future self and create momentum that makes the next decision stronger than the last. Life is filled with moments that feel urgent, overwhelming, and all-consuming. A harsh comment, a minor mistake, a sudden inconvenience, these things can trigger stress as if the entire world depends on them. But step back and ask yourself a simple question: will this matter in 5 years? That question cuts through the noise and reframes your perspective. What once felt like a storm often reveals itself as nothing more than a passing cloud. When you ask this, you shift from reacting emotionally to thinking long-term. Many of the things that keep you awake at night today will vanish from memory within months. That argument, that delay, that rejection, none of it will define your life 5 years from now. But the choices that build character, relationships, health, and growth absolutely will. This question becomes a filter, separating what deserves your energy from what doesn't. It also brings calm to moments of conflict. Instead of lashing out, you realize the anger you feel now won't serve your future. Instead of stressing over small setbacks, you recognize they're just stepping stones on a much larger path. Instead of obsessing over minor details, you focus on what truly shapes your journey. At the same time, this question elevates the weight of important decisions. Will learning this skill matter in 5 years? Absolutely. Will saving money and investing wisely matter? Without a doubt. Will nurturing your health and relationships matter? More than anything. Suddenly, your focus sharpens and your actions align with what lasts. Asking, will this matter in 5 years, is a reminder that time has a way of exposing what's trivial and highlighting what's essential. It is a tool for peace, a guide for decision-making, and a powerful way to live with perspective and purpose. Perfection is a tempting illusion. It whispers that unless something is flawless, it's not worth doing. It convinces you to wait for the right time, the perfect plan, or the deal conditions before taking action. But perfection is a moving target, and chasing it often leaves you stuck, paralyzed by fear of falling short. Progress, on the other hand, is real, achievable, and powerful. Choosing progress over perfection means valuing momentum over hesitation, effort over excuses, and growth over stagnation. Every great achievement you admire did not begin perfectly. It began imperfectly, with small steps taken consistently. The first draft of a book, the first workout in a fitness journey, the first attempt at a business, none of these were flawless. Yet they were the foundation of something extraordinary. Progress builds confidence, and confidence creates more progress. Waiting for perfection robs you of experience, but moving forward, even imperfectly, gives you lessons that perfection could never teach. Progress also removes the pressure of unrealistic expectations. When you focus on perfection, every mistake feels like failure. But when you focus on progress, mistakes become part of the process, valuable feedback that refines your path. Each step forward, no matter how small, compounds into results that perfection alone could never deliver. Choosing progress doesn't mean lowering your standards, it means raising your commitment to growth. It's about showing up today better than yesterday, even if just by 1%. It's about trusting that steady, imperfect steps will carry you farther than waiting endlessly for flawless conditions. Progress creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. The pursuit of perfection may leave you empty-handed, but the pursuit of progress will always move you closer to the life you want. Fear has a way of shouting in your mind. It screams worst-case scenarios, magnifies every possible mistake, and convinces you that failure is inevitable. Its voice is urgent, relentless, and often overwhelming. Fear wants you to believe that danger is around every corner, that you're not ready, not capable, not enough. It thrives on volume, because if it yells loudly enough, it drowns out everything else. But beneath that noise lies another voice, a quieter one, steady and calm. That voice is truth. Truth doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't threaten, it reassures. It reminds you of your strengths, your resilience, your values, and your purpose. Truth doesn't fill your mind with chaos, it centers you in clarity. But to hear it, you must be willing to listen deeper, beyond the noise of fear. You must create space, through stillness, reflection, or even a pause in the moment, to separate the frantic story fear tells from the grounded wisdom truth offers. Fear speaks of limitation, while truth speaks of possibility. Fear says, "What if you fail?" Truth says, "What if you grow?" Fear says, "Stay safe where you are." Truth says, "You were made for more." The difference between the two is not always easy to hear, because fear demands your attention immediately, while truth waits patiently for you to seek it. Learning to listen deeper is an act of courage. It means acknowledging fear without letting it control you. It means recognizing the loudest voice isn't always the most accurate one. The more you practice tuning into truth, the more confident and grounded your decisions become. Fear may always make noise, but when you choose to listen deeper, you discover that truth has been guiding you all along. Life often feels heavy, not because of the choices we make, but because of the unnecessary complexity we add to them. A truly smart decision has a unique quality: it simplifies. It doesn't create more confusion, more stress, or more tangled obligations. Instead, it clears the path, reduces friction, and makes the next step easier to take. When you make a decision that simplifies your life, you free up energy, focus, and time to invest in what really matters. Think about times when you've chosen the complicated route, saying yes when you meant no, holding on to something you've outgrown, or chasing opportunities that didn't align with your values. Those choices didn't just consume your schedule, they consumed your peace of mind. Complicated decisions drain you because they add layers of distraction. Smart decisions, on the other hand, feel lighter, cleaner, and aligned. They bring a sense of order where there was chaos. Simplicity doesn't mean easy. Sometimes the smartest decision requires courage, sacrifice, or letting go of something familiar. But even when it's hard in the moment, It ultimately simplifies the bigger picture. It streamlines your direction and removes the weight of misalignment. Saying no to what doesn't serve you may feel uncomfortable, but it clears space for what will. Choosing honesty over avoidance may create temporary tension, but it leads to lasting peace. When you measure decisions by their ability to simplify your life, you begin to see which paths truly serve you. A smart decision opens doors instead of closing you in. It creates flow instead of resistance. It turns clutter into clarity. Each time you simplify, you not only make life more manageable, you also create space for growth, freedom, and the joy of living with intention. Every decision carries both logic and instinct, and the art of making smart choices lies in knowing how to use them together. Gathering facts is the foundation. It gives you perspective, data, and clarity. When you take time to understand the details, weigh the options, and examine the evidence, you prevent yourself from rushing blindly. Facts are anchors. They ground you in reality and protect you from assumptions or impulsive mistakes. But facts alone are not always enough, because life is rarely black and white. That's where intuition steps in. Intuition is that inner sense, the quiet knowing that comes from experience, values, and subconscious wisdom. It's the voice that tells you something feels right, even if it doesn't fully make sense on paper. Intuition is not about guessing. It's about connecting with the deeper part of you that sees beyond numbers and surface details. When facts and intuition work together, your decisions become both informed and aligned. Some people lean too heavily on logic, overanalyzing every possibility until they're paralyzed by indecision. Others lean only on intuition, ignoring practical information and hoping for the best. Both extremes can lead to mistakes. The balance comes in doing your homework first, collecting the facts, understanding the risks, and clarifying the possibilities, then stepping back and asking, what does my gut tell me? Often, your intuition is shaped by truths you can't consciously articulate, but that your experiences have already taught you. Trusting it doesn't mean ignoring facts. It means using facts as your map and intuition as your compass. Together, they guide you with both precision and wisdom. Facts sharpen the mind, intuition protects the heart, and when you honor both, you give yourself the greatest chance of making decisions you won't regret. Big dreams often capture our imagination, but it's the small, quiet choices we make every single day that truly shape our lives. The food you eat, the words you speak, the way you spend an hour in the evening, these may seem insignificant in isolation, but over time they compound into powerful outcomes. Success and failure are rarely the result of one dramatic moment. They are built brick by brick through daily habits and decisions. Think of it like planting seeds. One seed may not look like much, but if nurtured consistently, it grows into a tree. Each small choice is a seed. Choosing to exercise instead of scrolling your phone, to read instead of procrastinate, to save instead of spend recklessly. None of these decisions transform your life overnight, but repeated daily, they create momentum that is impossible to ignore. Over weeks, months, and years, those choices compound into health, knowledge, wealth, and fulfillment. The reverse is also true. Small careless decisions, skipping the effort, ignoring the discipline, indulging in distractions, also build momentum, but in the wrong direction. They may not harm you today, but over time they erode your progress, leaving you stuck where you don't want to be. The danger of small choices is that they feel harmless in the moment, yet their long-term effect is enormous. The beauty is that you always have the power to shift. You don't need to change everything at once, you only need to choose differently today. When you realize the weight of small daily actions, you stop underestimating them. Each choice becomes an opportunity to invest in your future self. And when you consistently choose wisely in the small moments, the massive outcomes take care of themselves. The people you spend the most time with shape your thoughts, influence your habits, and ultimately guide the direction of your life. Surrounding yourself with those who sharpen your thinking means choosing relationships that challenge you, inspire you, and hold you to a higher standard. These are not people who simply agree with everything you say, but those who push you to see deeper, think bigger, and grow stronger. Iron sharpens iron, and when you are around people who bring out the best in you, your mind becomes sharper, your vision clearer, and your decisions wiser. When you engage with people who think critically, ask tough questions, and encourage different perspectives, you develop the ability to see beyond your own limitations. They expand your horizon by showing you possibilities you might never have considered. Instead of pulling you down with negativity or complacency, they lift you up with energy, ambition, and wisdom. The right people don't just comfort you, they stretch you. They remind you that you are capable of more than you realize and push you to rise to your potential. On the other hand, when you surround yourself with those who drain your energy, discourage your dreams, or limit your perspective, your thinking dulls. You settle, you shrink, and you begin to mirror the very limitations around you. That's why choosing your circle intentionally is one of the smartest decisions you can ever make. Seek mentors, friends, and colleagues who challenge your assumptions and encourage your growth. Be open to constructive feedback and welcome diverse points of view, because every sharp perspective polishes your own. Over time, the company you keep becomes the mirror of your future. When you surround yourself with people who sharpen your thinking, you sharpen your life. Every decision you make carries a trade-off. When you say yes to one thing, you are automatically saying no to something else, whether you realize it or not. Time, energy, and focus are limited resources. Each time you commit to something, you're spending a portion of those resources, and once spent, they cannot be reclaimed. That's why saying yes should never be automatic. It should be intentional, deliberate, and aligned with what matters most to you. Think about how often people say yes out of guilt, obligation, or fear of disappointing others. They agree to projects they don't care about, social events they don't enjoy, or responsibilities that drain their energy. On the surface, these yeses may seem harmless, but each one steals time from what could have been invested in personal growth, meaningful relationships, or purposeful goals. The real danger isn't just in what you say yes to. It's in what you unknowingly sacrifice. When you recognize that every yes is also a no, your perspective shifts. Suddenly, saying yes isn't just about pleasing others or chasing opportunities. It's about evaluating what truly deserves space in your life. Saying yes to late nights at work might mean saying no to time with family. Saying yes to constant business might mean saying no to rest and reflection. Saying yes to short-term comfort might mean saying no to long-term success. This doesn't mean you should say no to everything. It means you should choose with clarity. Ask yourself, what am I saying no to if I say yes to this? That question helps reveal the hidden cost of each decision. Sometimes the yes is worth it because it aligns with your vision, fuels your growth, or strengthens your relationships. Other times, the wiser choice is to protect your no, because by guarding it, you are also protecting your time, energy, and peace of mind. The most successful and fulfilled people are not those who say yes to everything, but those who reserve their yes for what truly matters. They understand that focus is power, and that spreading themselves thin dilutes their impact. When you choose your yes wisely, you also choose your future wisely, because every yes carries the weight of the no that comes with it. Doubt is a natural part of life. When you're faced with a choice that carries uncertainty, your instinct often pulls you toward safety. Safety feels comfortable, predictable, and free of risk. It tells you to stay where you are, to protect what you already know, to avoid the unknown. But comfort zones, while soothing, are also limiting. They keep you small when you were meant to grow. Growth, on the other hand, rarely feels safe. It challenges you, stretches you, and sometimes even scares you. Yet it is in growth that you discover who you really are and what you are truly capable of. Choosing growth over safety doesn't mean being reckless. It means being courageous enough to take the step that feels uncomfortable but aligned with your potential. Safety asks, "What if I fail?" Growth asks, "What if I succeed?" Safety whispers, "Stay the same." Growth calls out, "Become more." Every time you choose growth, you expand your possibilities, while every time you cling to safety, you reinforce your limitations. Think about the turning points in your life. Chances are, the most rewarding experiences came from moments when you chose growth despite your doubts. Perhaps it was applying for a role you weren't sure you'd get, starting a project you didn't feel ready for, or having a conversation you were afraid to have. Those moments weren't comfortable, but they changed you. Safety would have kept you in place, but growth moved you forward. Doubt often disguises itself as protection, but more often it is simply fear in disguise. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of the unknown. The antidote is growth, because growth builds confidence through action. The more you step into growth, the smaller your doubts become. You begin to realize that failure is not the enemy, it is the teacher that refines you. When faced with uncertainty, ask yourself which choice will expand you and which will shrink you. Safety keeps you in the familiar, but growth opens the door to the extraordinary. By choosing growth, you not only move closer to your goals, you also become the kind of person who thrives in uncertainty, turns challenges into stepping stones, and transforms doubt into strength. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions a person can feel. It rises quickly, clouds judgment, and demands immediate release. In the heat of anger, everything feels urgent. Words are spoken without thought, actions are taken without foresight, and decisions are made with the sole intention of releasing tension. Yet decisions born from anger almost always carry consequences that linger long after the emotion fades. The fire of anger may burn out in minutes, but the damage caused by choices made in that state can last for years. When anger takes control, clarity disappears. Logic is replaced by impulse, perspective shrinks, and the ability to see long-term outcomes vanishes. In that moment, it is not wisdom making the choice, but raw emotion. That is why so many regret the things they said or did when anger was in charge. What seemed like a justified reaction in the moment often looks reckless in hindsight. Decisions made in anger rarely serve you because they serve the emotion, not your values, not your goals, and not your future self. The discipline lies in creating space between feeling anger and acting on it. That space may be a deep breath, a walk outside, or even waiting a full day before responding. In that pause, anger begins to cool and perspective begins to return. With time, you can see the situation for what it really is, not what your emotions exaggerated it to be. Often, what felt intolerable in the moment becomes manageable when viewed with calmer eyes. Anger itself is not the enemy. It can be a signal that something is wrong, unfair, or misaligned. But while anger may highlight an issue, it should never dictate the solution. When you allow anger to be the sole driver, you give away your control. When you acknowledge it, breathe through it, and then decide from a place of clarity, you regain your power. The wisest choices are made not in the storm, but after it passes. By refusing to decide in anger, you protect your relationships, preserve your integrity, and ensure that your decisions reflect not a fleeting emotion, but the person you truly want to be. Courage is often misunderstood as the absence of fear, when in truth, courage exists only in the presence of fear. A courageous choice is not the easy one, not the comfortable one, but the one that stretches you beyond what feels safe. It often comes wrapped in discomfort, uncertainty, and doubt, which is why so many people avoid it. Yet those very choices, the ones that make your heart race and your palms sweat, are the ones that create the greatest expansion in your life. Think about the moments when you grew the most as a person. Rarely did that growth come from staying in comfort. It came from raising your hand when you weren't sure you were ready, speaking up when silence was easier, taking a leap when the outcome was uncertain. Each time you stepped into that discomfort, you unlocked a new version of yourself. Courageous choices are uncomfortable in the moment, but they expand your future by opening doors you didn't even know existed. Comfort zones may feel safe, but they are designed to keep you exactly where you are. If you keep choosing safety, your world shrinks to the size of what is predictable. But when you choose courage, your world begins to expand. Opportunities reveal themselves, your skills evolve, and your confidence grows. The discomfort you feel is not a signal to retreat, it's proof that you are growing. Courage doesn't always mean making a grand, life-changing decision. Sometimes it's in the small acts, having the difficult conversation, admitting you don't know the answer, or trying something new without a guarantee of success. Each courageous choice builds resilience, shaping you into someone capable of more than you thought possible. The future belongs to those willing to walk through discomfort and trust that growth lies on the other side. When you consistently choose courage, you expand not only your opportunities but also your sense of what is possible. The discomfort fades, but the expansion remains, carrying you further than safety ever could. In a world that demands speed, it's easy to feel pressure to decide quickly, to fix problems instantly, to force clarity before it naturally arrives. But the truth is, not every answer is meant to be immediate. Some decisions, some realizations, require time to unfold. When you rush clarity, you risk grabbing the first conclusion that feels convenient rather than the truth that would have revealed itself with patience. Time has a way of stripping away illusions, exposing hidden motives, and highlighting what truly matters. Think about the times when you acted too quickly. Maybe you trusted someone before their actions proved their character, or jumped into an opportunity before weighing the consequences. In the moment, the choice may have felt right, but later you saw details you couldn't have noticed at first. That's the gift of time. It brings perspective. What is blurry today often becomes crystal clear tomorrow, not because the facts changed, but because you did. Your emotions settled, your thoughts aligned, and truth emerged. Patience doesn't mean inaction. It means creating space for reflection, letting the dust settle, and allowing wisdom to rise above impulse. When you give yourself time, you also give your intuition room to speak. Rushing silences that voice, but patience allows it to guide you. Time also reveals the intentions of others. Words can be rehearsed, appearances can be staged, but over time, consistency, or lack of it, always tells the truth. Someone's true character, the real potential of an opportunity, or the actual cost of a decision will always come to light if you allow enough space to observe. When clarity feels out of reach, trust that it is not absent, only unfolding. Waiting may feel uncomfortable, especially when you crave certainty, but it is often in the waiting that wisdom takes shape. The decision you make after giving it time will not only be clearer, it will be stronger, more grounded, and more aligned with your future. Time is not your enemy in decision-making, it is your ally, ensuring that what you choose is not just fast, but true. When most people think about making smart decisions, they immediately focus on time, how to save it, manage it, or use it more efficiently. But time is only part of the equation. Energy is just as valuable, and often even more important. You can have hours free on your calendar, but if your energy is drained, those hours are wasted. Smart decisions are not just about protecting your schedule, they are about protecting the mental, emotional, and physical energy that fuels your ability to show up fully in your life. Every choice you make either recharges you or drains you. Saying yes to commitments that don't align with your values may not consume much time, but they drain enormous amounts of energy. Engaging in toxic conversations, overthinking small issues, or carrying unnecessary stress might not block hours on your calendar, but they rob you of focus, joy, and motivation. This is why smart decisions consider both dimensions. Does this protect my time? And does this protect my energy? Protecting your energy means setting boundaries without guilt. It means saying no to people or situations that leave you depleted, even if they only require a small slice of your day. It means prioritizing rest, health, and recovery as much as productivity, because without energy, productivity collapses. Smart decisions recognize that energy is the fuel behind every goal, and without protecting it, you risk burnout long before you reach success. When you choose what uplifts you, excites you, and nourishes you, you create momentum. You feel lighter, more focused, more capable of handling challenges. Protecting your energy allows you to give your best where it truly matters. The smarter your decisions become, the more you realize it's not just about squeezing more into your schedule. It's about preserving the energy that makes those hours meaningful, powerful, and effective. The quality of your decisions is often determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. When faced with a choice, many people stop at surface-level questions like, "What's easiest?" or "What will people think?" But these questions rarely lead to wise outcomes. Smart decisions require deeper inquiry, because better questions uncover clarity, reveal hidden perspectives, and challenge assumptions that might otherwise keep you stuck. Asking better questions shifts your focus from impulse to insight. Instead of, "What feels good right now?" ask, "What serves me in the long run?" Instead of, "What if I fail?" ask, "What will I learn if I try?" Instead of, "What do I stand to lose?" ask, "What could I gain?" The questions you ask determine the frame through which you see the decision. A narrow question creates a narrow choice, but a thoughtful question opens possibilities you didn't even realize were available. Better questions also slow you down, giving you space to reflect rather than react. When you pause to ask, "Is this aligned with my values?" or "Will this matter in 5 years?" you give yourself room to step outside the noise of emotion and consider the bigger picture. This doesn't just improve the choice in front of you, it strengthens your overall decision-making muscle. The most successful people are not those who always know the answers, but those who consistently ask the right questions. They challenge their own assumptions, seek multiple perspectives, and reframe problems in ways that reveal solutions others miss. By training yourself to ask better questions, you elevate your thinking and move closer to choices that are intentional, empowering, and effective. Every decision has layers, and better questions help peel them back. They uncover motivations, highlight risks, and shine a light on opportunities that emotion or urgency might hide. When you make it a habit to ask better questions, you give yourself the gift of better choices, and better choices create a better life. No matter how smart or capable you are, your perspective will always be limited by your own experiences. You can only see through the lens of what you've lived, and while that lens is valuable, it is not complete. That's why seeking perspective is one of the most powerful ways to make better decisions. Borrowing wisdom from those ahead of you allows you to see further, avoid unnecessary mistakes, and approach choices with greater clarity. When you seek perspective, you are not admitting weakness, you are demonstrating strength. It takes humility to ask for guidance, to say, "I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn." People who have walked the path before you carry insights that no book, article, or theory can fully capture. They've faced the challenges, endured the setbacks, and discovered what works through experience. By learning from them, you compress time. What took them years of trial and error can become lessons you apply immediately. Borrowing wisdom also protects you from blind spots. In the middle of a decision, emotions can cloud your judgment, making it difficult to see the bigger picture. Someone with distance and perspective can point out what you might be missing. Their questions and insights can help you step outside the fog and see the situation with fresh eyes. Seeking perspective doesn't mean blindly following advice. It means gathering insight, weighing it against your values and goals, and then making an informed choice. The goal is not to copy someone else's journey, but to let their wisdom illuminate your own. Even one conversation with the right person can shift the way you see everything. Surround yourself with mentors, coaches, peers, or even biographies of great leaders. Each one offers a perspective you can borrow, adapt, and integrate into your own decisions. Wisdom is not only found in your experiences, it's multiplied when you learn from the experiences of others. The further you look ahead by seeking perspective, the more confidently you can step forward in your own path. It's easy to let others make decisions for you. Sometimes it feels safer to lean on their opinions, to follow their path, or to let their approval guide your choices. After all, responsibility is heavy, and outsourcing decisions can feel like a way to escape the weight of accountability. But when you hand over your choices, you also hand over your future. Every time you let someone else decide for you, you surrender a piece of your direction, and eventually, you may find yourself living a life that doesn't even feel like your own. Owning your direction doesn't mean ignoring advice or refusing to listen. It means gathering insight, considering perspectives, and then making the final call yourself. Others can provide guidance, but only you can determine what aligns with your values, your goals, and your vision. No one else carries your dreams, your passions, or your purpose. That responsibility belongs solely to you. When you outsource decisions, you may avoid blame in the short term, but you create regret in the long term. It's easier to say, "They told me to do it," than to admit you made the wrong call. But regret always feels heavier when you realize you never even gave yourself the chance to decide. Mistakes are not the enemy. Abdicating your own authority is. Every mistake you make from your own decision teaches you something valuable. Every decision someone else makes for you robs you of that growth. Owning your direction requires courage. It demands self-awareness, clarity, and sometimes the willingness to go against the opinions of others. But the reward is freedom, the freedom to live a life that reflects who you are, not who others expect you to be. When you own your decisions, you own both the successes and the failures, and that ownership builds resilience, confidence, and integrity. Your direction in life is too important to outsource. Others can walk beside you, cheer for you, and advise you, but they cannot decide for you. That privilege belongs only to you, and the moment you claim it fully, you begin to create a life that is authentically and unapologetically yours. Every decision you make points you in a direction, and without a compass, it's easy to drift off course. That compass is your values, the deeply held principles that define who you are and what matters most to you. Values are not just abstract words, they are guiding forces. They help you navigate choices, especially in moments of uncertainty, temptation, or pressure. When you're clear about your values and follow them relentlessly, you create alignment between who you are, what you do, and where you're going. Without values, decisions become reactive. You end up chasing approval, convenience, or short-term gain, only to feel unfulfilled later. But when values guide your choices, even the most difficult paths feel purposeful. If integrity is a value, you don't compromise it for quick rewards. If growth is a value, you choose the uncomfortable option that makes you stronger. If family is a value, you prioritize time with loved ones even when the world demands otherwise. Values give you an anchor so you don't get swept away by external noise. Following your values relentlessly also builds trust, both with yourself and with others. When your actions consistently reflect your principles, people know who you are and what you stand for. More importantly, you know it too. That inner consistency creates confidence, because you no longer question whether you're on the right path. You may not control every outcome, but you can always control whether your choices reflect your core beliefs. There will be moments when living by your values feels costly. You may lose opportunities, relationships, or comfort. But what you gain is far greater integrity, peace, and direction. The cost of betraying your values is always heavier than the cost of honoring them. By choosing to follow them relentlessly, you ensure that every step you take leads you closer to a life that feels authentic, meaningful, and true to who you are. When faced with a big decision, most people hesitate not because they don't know what they want, but because they are afraid of the risk. Risk carries uncertainty, and uncertainty feels uncomfortable. What if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if others judge me? These questions echo loudly in the mind, often convincing people to play it safe. But what's rarely considered in the moment is the weight of regret, the silent burden that lingers far longer than the sting of risk. Regret is heavier than risk because risk is temporary. When you take a chance, you either succeed or you learn, but either way you move forward. Risk may bruise your ego or test your resilience, but it never defines you. In contrast, regret lingers. It shows up years later as, "What if?" It gnaws at you when you see someone else living the dream you abandoned. It weighs on your spirit when you realize you stayed safe but unfulfilled. The pain of a failed attempt fades, but the pain of never trying stays. Acting boldly doesn't mean acting recklessly. It means choosing courage when fear tempts you to settle. Bold action is about moving toward your vision, even when you don't have every answer, even when the path isn't guaranteed. It's understanding that the discomfort of risk is far lighter than the lifelong weight of wondering what could have been. Think about the stories people tell at the end of their lives. They rarely regret the risks they took, even the ones that didn't go perfectly. More often, they regret the chances they never gave themselves, the words they never spoke, the dreams they never pursued. Regret becomes the shadow of every missed opportunity. That is why boldness matters, not because it guarantees success, but because it guarantees you will live without wondering what might have happened if you tried. Every bold step expands you. It builds courage, strengthens resilience, and teaches lessons that safety never could. Even failure becomes fuel, shaping you into someone wiser and stronger. The truth is, risk is not the enemy, it's the price of growth. Safety feels secure, but it locks you into the same place. Boldness feels uncertain, but it propels you into a bigger future. So when doubt creeps in and fear tells you to play small, remember this: regret will always weigh more than risk. One is temporary, the other is permanent. You cannot control every outcome, but you can control whether you gave yourself the chance to live boldly. And when you choose to act boldly, you trade the heaviness of regret for the lightness of knowing you tried, you grew, and you lived fully. The mind is like a room. When it's filled with clutter, scattered thoughts, constant worries, unfinished tasks, endless distractions, it becomes difficult to move freely. You trip over things, waste time searching for what you need, and feel suffocated by the mess. A cluttered mind works the same way. It clouds judgment, fuels stress, and makes even simple decisions feel overwhelming. But when the room is clean, everything feels lighter, clearer, and easier. That's the power of mental clarity. It creates space for better choices. A clear mind is not about having no thoughts at all, it's about creating order within them. When your mental space is organized, you can separate what matters from what doesn't, fact from assumption, urgency from importance. Decisions that once felt paralyzing suddenly feel manageable. Instead of reacting impulsively, you can respond with focus and wisdom. Clarity is not just a state of mind, it's a tool that makes decision-making faster, sharper, and more effective. Clutter often comes from trying to hold too much at once. To-do lists swirl in your head, worries about the future mix with regrets from the past, and external noise constantly demands your attention. In this state, every decision feels heavier than it really is, because you're not just choosing, you're wrestling with the chaos inside. This is why practices like journaling, meditation, exercise, or even a quiet walk are so powerful. They don't magically erase problems, but they quiet the noise so you can think with perspective. A clear mind also brings confidence. When your thoughts are scattered, second guessing takes over. You keep asking yourself, did I miss something? What if I'm wrong? But when your mind is calm and uncluttered, you can trust your reasoning. You see the options more objectively, and you make choices that feel aligned with your goals and values. That confidence doesn't come from knowing the future. It comes from knowing you've created the mental space to decide well. The most successful leaders, creators, and innovators often credit their clarity of mind as their greatest asset. It allows them to cut through distractions, ignore the noise, and focus on what truly matters. You don't need superhuman intelligence to make wise decisions. You need a clear enough mind to hear your own wisdom. Every time you clear your mind, you sharpen your ability to choose. And every smart choice you make creates momentum, reducing future clutter. Clarity compounds just like confusion does. The difference lies in whether you choose to manage your mental space or let it overflow. A clear mind doesn't just feel better, it decides better, acts better, and creates a life that reflects order, purpose, and strength. There's a reason the advice, sleep on it, has stood the test of time. When you face an important decision, it's tempting to rush, to solve it quickly, to quiet the discomfort of uncertainty. But clarity doesn't always come in the moment. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is step back, rest, and allow your mind to reset. Tomorrow often brings sharper insight because rest changes the way your brain processes information. During sleep, your brain doesn't shut down, it reorganizes. It sorts through the noise of the day, clears away mental clutter, and strengthens the connections between ideas. What felt tangled and confusing in the evening can feel obvious and manageable in the morning. That's not magic, that's biology. A rested mind is more creative, more objective, and more capable of seeing solutions you might miss when you're tired or emotionally charged. Making decisions while exhausted is like trying to see through a foggy window. Everything is distorted, unclear, and frustrating. Fatigue narrows your focus and magnifies problems, while rest broadens perspective and restores balance. By sleeping on a decision, you give yourself permission to move from reaction to reflection. It's not avoidance, it's strategy. You're letting time and rest do some of the heavy lifting. Sleep also cools emotions. Decisions made in the heat of stress, anger, or excitement often skew toward impulsivity. A night of rest helps you process those emotions and approach the situation with a steadier hand. You wake up not only with more mental clarity but with a calmer heart. From that place, your choices are more likely to align with your long-term values rather than short-term feelings. Even history shows the wisdom of pausing. Great thinkers, leaders, and inventors often credited rest, walks, or sleep with their breakthroughs. By stepping away from the problem, they gave their subconscious space to work, and answers emerged naturally. The same principle applies to everyday decisions. Sometimes the most powerful move is simply waiting until tomorrow. This doesn't mean procrastinating or endlessly delaying decisions. It means recognizing when your mind is too cluttered, your emotions too heightened, or your body too tired to choose wisely. In those moments, the discipline to pause and sleep on it is itself a sign of wisdom. Tomorrow doesn't guarantee perfection, but it often delivers a perspective that tonight cannot offer. When you honor rest, you invite clarity, and when clarity arrives, better decisions follow. It's tempting to make decisions that look good from the outside. To choose the job that impresses others, the lifestyle that earns approval, the path that makes people nod with admiration. The pressure to impress can be powerful, especially in a world that rewards appearances and quick validation. But decisions made to impress often leave you empty, because they're built on someone else's values, not your own. The wiser path is to choose what aligns with your values, your vision, and your truth. Alignment creates fulfillment, while impressing creates a mask. When you choose based on alignment, you measure success by how it feels inside, not how it looks outside. A decision may not make sense to others, but if it resonates with who you are, it creates peace and direction. Alignment is about asking, does this reflect the person I want to become? Rather than, will this make me look good in their eyes? The first question leads to growth, integrity, and long-term satisfaction. The second leads to exhaustion, because no amount of external approval can fill the emptiness of betraying yourself. Choosing to align instead of impress requires courage. It often means saying no to opportunities that glitter but don't fit. It may mean disappointing people who expected a different path for you. But every time you choose alignment, you strengthen trust in yourself. You prove that your life belongs to you, not to the shifting opinions of others. Living in alignment also makes decisions easier. When your compass is clear, the noise of outside influence fades. You don't waste energy chasing recognition or fearing judgment. Instead, you move with conviction because your choices are rooted in something deeper than appearances. That kind of clarity not only simplifies life, but also attracts the right people, opportunities and experiences, the ones that genuinely fit who you are. Impressing others is temporary, the applause fades, the admiration shifts, and you're left searching for the next thing to prove your worth. Alignment, however, is lasting. It creates a steady foundation that doesn't depend on approval. When you choose what aligns, you build a life that feels authentic, resilient, and deeply fulfilling. Impressing pleases the moment, but alignment sustains the journey. And in the end, the life that matters most is the one that feels true when no one else is watching you. Every decision you make becomes a lesson, whether it leads to success or failure. We often celebrate the choices that bring quick wins and visible rewards, but it's the decisions that don't go as planned that hold the deepest wisdom. Failure is not the opposite of progress, it is part of progress. Every misstep, every wrong turn, every outcome that didn't match your hopes still pushes you forward by teaching you something you couldn't have learned otherwise. When you make a decision and it doesn't work out, you gain insight about what doesn't fit, what doesn't work, or what needs to change. That knowledge sharpens your awareness for the future, preventing you from repeating the same mistakes. Each failure becomes a stepping stone, redirecting you towards something better aligned with your path. In this way, failure is not wasted effort. It is forward motion disguised in difficulty. The fear of failure often keeps people stuck in indecision, but avoiding choices altogether is the only way to guarantee stagnation. Progress requires movement, and movement requires decisions. Some of those decisions will bring victories, others will bring lessons, but both outcomes move you closer to growth. What looks like a setback in the moment often becomes the turning point that equips you for greater success later. Failure also builds resilience. Every time you face an outcome that didn't meet your expectations, you strengthen your ability to adapt, recover, and try again. You discover that failure is survivable, and that realization makes you bolder. Resilience born from failure creates a confidence that no success alone can provide. The confidence that you can keep going regardless of what happens. The most accomplished people in the world carry long histories of failed decisions, but they never stopped moving. They treated each outcome as information, not condemnation. They understood that every decision teaches, and that wisdom compounds over time. The real failure is not in choosing poorly, it is in refusing to learn. When you reframe failure as progress, you release the pressure to be perfect. You free yourself to experiment, to take risks, to pursue opportunities without fear of making mistakes. Progress is not about avoiding failure, it is about using it as fuel. Every decision, whether it brings joy or challenge, contributes to the story of your growth. And with each lesson, you become wiser, stronger, and more prepared for the future choices that will shape your life. When faced with a decision, it's easy to believe that having more options is always better. We assume that the wider the selection, the greater our freedom and the higher our chances of making the right choice. Yet the truth is often the opposite. Too many options can paralyze you, overwhelm you, and lead to hesitation rather than clarity. Complexity breeds confusion, while simplicity creates space for wisdom to emerge. The smartest decisions often come not from analyzing endless possibilities, but from narrowing the focus to what truly matters. Every option you consider demands mental energy. It takes time to weigh the pros and cons, imagine outcomes, and manage the emotional weight that comes with each possibility. When options multiply, the decision decision-making process becomes cluttered. Instead of gaining freedom, you feel trapped in overthinking. This is known as decision fatigue. The more choices you face, the harder it becomes to make any choice at all. By simplifying options, you preserve energy and create mental clarity. You make it easier to see the best path without drowning in unnecessary complexity. Simplification doesn't mean ignoring possibilities or rushing to choose. It means cutting through the noise to focus only on what aligns with your values, goals, and priorities. Ask yourself, which options truly move me closer to the life I want, and which are simply distractions disguised as opportunities? Many choices that look appealing at first lose their shine when measured against your deeper purpose. By filtering decisions through clarity, you naturally eliminate options that only add confusion. Simplicity also reduces regret. When you face too many options, you risk second-guessing yourself after the decision is made, wondering if one of the others might have been better. But when you narrow your focus to a few meaningful possibilities, you reduce the what-ifs. You make the choice with more confidence because you know it's aligned with your bigger vision, not just a fleeting preference. Great leaders, innovators, and thinkers often credit their success not to considering every possible path, but to eliminating distractions and committing to one clear direction. They know that spreading energy across endless options dilutes impact, while focusing on fewer, higher-quality choices amplifies results. Simplicity sharpens decision-making by forcing you to prioritize what matters most. Practical ways to simplify include setting clear criteria before making a choice, limiting the number of options you consider, and trusting your values as the ultimate filter. Sometimes it also means outsourcing minor decisions, so you preserve your energy for the ones that truly shape your life. By treating simplicity as a discipline, you create the mental space for clarity, creativity, and confidence to guide you. Complexity is seductive because it feels thorough, but it often leaves you stuck. Simplicity feels bold because it requires trust. Trust that you don't need every option, just the right one. When you simplify options, you reclaim control of your energy, sharpen your focus, and free yourself from the fog of confusion. The fewer distractions you entertain, the clearer the path becomes, and the more powerful your decisions grow. Urgency has a way of making everything feel like an emergency. When faced with pressure, your instinct is to react quickly, to resolve the tension, to silence the discomfort of not yet knowing what to do. In those moments, the rush of urgency can hijack your wisdom. It pushes you into decisions that feel necessary in the heat of the moment, but leave you questioning yourself later. Wisdom rarely speaks in panic. It lives in calm reflection, in perspective, and in choices made with clarity rather than haste. When urgency takes control, your focus narrows. You stop seeing the bigger picture and start reacting only to the immediate stimulus in front of you. That's why people often make poor financial choices under pressure, say words they later regret in heated arguments, or commit to responsibilities they don't have the bandwidth to handle. The decision solves the urgency, but creates bigger problems down the road. It is not that urgency itself is always bad. Sometimes quick action is necessary. But mistaking every urgent feeling for emergency is where wisdom is lost. The danger of urgency lies in its ability to disguise itself as importance. Just because something feels pressing does not mean it is significant. True wisdom involves pausing long enough to ask, is this genuinely urgent, or is it simply loud? Does this choice matter in the long term, or am I reacting to temporary pressure? By taking that pause, you give your mind the space to separate noise from necessity. Creating boundaries around urgency is one of the most powerful ways to protect your decision-making. When an email demands an immediate response or a situation pressures you to act instantly, you can give yourself permission to breathe, reflect, and choose consciously rather than reactively. Even a few moments of stillness can shift the quality of the decision. Pausing is not weakness, it is strength. It is the discipline of letting your wisdom catch up before urgency drives you into action. Wisdom also reminds you that timing is a choice. Not every decision must be made in the heat of the moment. In fact, some of the best decisions are the ones delayed until the emotions have cooled and the perspective has widened. By refusing to let urgency dictate your timeline, you reclaim control over your choices and protect the integrity of your long-term goals. Urgency thrives on fear. The fear of missing out, the fear of disappointing others, the fear of losing control. Wisdom thrives on trust, the trust that waiting does not mean weakness, that clarity comes with patience, and that what is meant for you does not need to be forced. When you ground yourself in that trust, you can hear the quiet voice of wisdom over the loud noise of urgency. Every time you resist the pull of urgency, you strengthen your decision-making muscle. You prove to yourself that you are capable of choosing from a place of intention, not impulse. And with each wise decision, your confidence grows, your direction sharpens, and your future aligns more closely with the life you truly want to live. Urgency has a way of tightening its grip on the mind, convincing you that every choice must be made immediately and every situation demands instant action. It whispers that delay is dangerous and that waiting will cost you something vital. Under that pressure, the natural tendency is to rush, to decide quickly just to relieve the discomfort of uncertainty. But when urgency takes over, it often hijacks your wisdom, the very insight, patience, and perspective you need to make a sound decision get buried beneath the noise of immediacy. The problem with urgency is not that it exists. Sometimes fast action is necessary. Emergencies, opportunities, and time-sensitive situations do occur. The real problem is when everything feels urgent, when every email, request, or challenge carries the same weight as a genuine crisis. In that state, you stop distinguishing between what truly matters and what only feels pressing. Wisdom cannot breathe when urgency dictates the pace, because wisdom needs space to reflect, evaluate, and align choices with long-term vision instead of short-term relief. Decisions made in urgency often create new problems. You agree to commitments you don't have the capacity for, spend money you don't really have, or say words that damage relationships. In the moment, the decision feels like solving a problem, but later you see it was only shifting the burden forward. Acting too quickly can create consequences far more difficult to undo than the original pressure you felt. That is why slowing down, even briefly, is so powerful. A pause is often all it takes to regain perspective and let wisdom rise above urgency. Pausing doesn't mean procrastinating or avoiding responsibility. It means resisting the illusion that speed equals strength. Taking a breath, stepping back, or even sleeping on a decision allows emotions to cool and clarity to return. The pause itself is an act of wisdom because it acknowledges that not every situation deserves your immediate reaction. Some deserve your thoughtful consideration instead. Wisdom also reminds you to ask questions urgency never asks. Will this matter in a year? Is this aligned with my values? Am I choosing this out of fear or out of conviction? Urgency is loud and emotional, but wisdom is quiet and steady. To hear it, you must create silence long enough for the truth to surface. There will always be external forces demanding your immediate attention. Deadlines, notifications, and voices telling you to move faster are constants in life. But your greatest power lies in choosing which demands are real and which are distractions. By protecting your decision-making from the grip of urgency, you protect your future from choices that don't serve you. Every time you resist the pull to rush, you strengthen your discipline. You prove to yourself that you can act with intention rather than reaction. Wisdom grows in those pauses, in the moments you reclaim from urgency, and it shapes decisions that last far longer than the fleeting pressure of the moment. The right decision rarely feels easy in the moment. In fact, it often feels uncomfortable, heavy, and even frightening. That's because the right decision usually requires courage. It asks you to stretch beyond your comfort zone, to let go of what's familiar, or to face truths you may have been avoiding. Yet, while the process feels challenging, the outcome brings something powerful: freedom. The right decision might cost you convenience, approval, or short-term comfort, but it always gives you a deeper sense of alignment, peace, and liberation. Challenge is a signal, not a warning. When a choice pushes you to confront fear, uncertainty, or sacrifice, it means you're stepping into territory that matters. Easy decisions rarely transform your life. Difficult ones often do. They force you to clarify your values, to decide what you stand for, and to commit to a path that reflects your authentic self. That challenge feels uncomfortable because growth is uncomfortable, but the discomfort is temporary. The freedom that follows is lasting. Freedom comes in many forms. Sometimes it's the relief of finally being honest with yourself. Sometimes it's the space that opens up when you stop carrying a responsibility that wasn't yours. Sometimes it's the clarity that emerges when you stop living for others and start living for your own vision. The right decision may not erase all problems, but it removes the weight of inner conflict. Even if the path is hard, you no longer feel trapped by indecision or dishonesty. You feel lighter because you are finally aligned. Think about the moments in life where you made a difficult but necessary choice. Ending a relationship that no longer served you, walking away from a job that drained you, or saying no when everything in you wanted to please others. In those moments, fear was loud, doubt was constant. Yet once the choice was made, a sense of freedom followed, even if the consequences were tough. That freedom is the sign of a right decision. It may not feel easy, but it feels true. The danger lies in mistaking ease for wisdom. Just because something feels simple in the short term doesn't mean it's right. Often the easy path is the one that keeps you small, silent, or stuck. The right decision, by contrast, stretches you but strengthens you. It challenges you but clears the way for growth, authenticity, and peace of mind. Making peace with the challenge is part of the journey. If you expect the right decision to always feel effortless, you'll avoid it when it feels hard. But if you understand that the right decision often comes with resistance, you'll learn to welcome the struggle as proof that you are on the right path. In the end, the test of a decision is not how easy it feels in the moment, but how freeing it feels afterward. The right decision may shake you, stretch you, or even scare you, but it also liberates you. It frees your energy, clears your conscience, and opens the door to a life more aligned with your values and your truth. Smart decisions are rarely about dramatic leaps or single life-changing moments. More often, they are about small, steady choices repeated over time. Each decision may seem insignificant on its own, choosing to save instead of spend, to exercise instead of skip, to learn instead of scroll. But consistency turns those small choices into powerful momentum. Protecting consistency is the real secret to growth, because decisions compound just like interest in a bank account. What feels small today multiplies into transformation tomorrow. Consistency protects you from the trap of relying on motivation alone. Motivation is fleeting. It rises and falls with moods, circumstances, and energy levels. But consistency doesn't depend on how you feel, it depends on the commitment you've made. When you decide in advance to act in alignment with your goals, you don't waste energy debating each day. You simply follow through. That discipline, repeated daily, produces results that no single burst of effort could ever achieve. Smart decisions also gain power when compounded. One healthy meal may not change your body, but 1,000 healthy meals will. One conversation may not change a relationship, but consistent honesty will. One act of courage may not redefine your life, but repeated courageous decisions will reshape your future. The compounding effect of choices is what builds lasting success, and protecting consistency ensures that effect keeps working in your favor. The challenge is that inconsistency erodes progress just as quickly as consistency builds it. Breaking commitments to yourself, even in small ways, weakens trust and momentum. This is why protecting consistency is so vital. It guards the progress you've already made while ensuring future growth continues. Protecting it means creating systems, routines, and environments that support wise choices, even on the days you feel tired, distracted, or discouraged. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't require that you never stumble or never change course. It means showing up more often than not, choosing the path of alignment far more than the path of convenience. Even when you falter, consistency is built by returning quickly to the standard you've set for yourself. Over time, the occasional misstep matters little compared to the power of steady persistence. Protecting consistency also builds confidence. Each time you follow through on a decision, you reinforce the belief that you can trust yourself. That self-trust becomes the foundation for bigger decisions because you know you have the discipline to sustain them. Small wins create larger wins, and each layer of consistency adds weight to your character and credibility. In the end, smart decisions compound the way drops of water carve rivers. Slowly, steadily, with unstoppable force. Protecting consistency ensures that your daily actions align with your vision, and over time, those actions create a future that reflects the best of who you are and what you've chosen. The reward of consistency is not only progress but the quiet strength of knowing that every decision you protect today is shaping a stronger, freer, and more fulfilled tomorrow. Every decision you make is a vote for the person you are becoming. Too often, choices are made from the perspective of who you are right now, your fears, your doubts, your limitations. But the smartest decisions come when you shift your perspective forward and ask, what would the future version of me, the one I aspire to be, choose in this moment? That question elevates your thinking. It pulls you out of short-term comfort and aligns you with long-term vision. When you decide as your future self, you are no longer driven by instant gratification. The present you may want convenience, ease, or immediate pleasure, but the future you wants growth, fulfillment, and lasting success. For example, the present you may want to hit snooze, but the future you knows the discipline of waking up early compounds into opportunities. The present you may want to spend recklessly, but the future you wants financial freedom. The present you may avoid difficult conversations, but the future you values authenticity and stronger relationships. Every decision becomes a fork in the road. One path keeps you where you are. The other moves you closer to the version of yourself you want to become. Deciding as your future self requires clarity about who that person is. You must take the time to define your values, vision, and goals. Who do you want to be 5 years from now? What kind of character do you want to embody? What kind of life do you want to live? With that picture clear, decisions stop being random. They become deliberate steps toward the future you've already claimed in your mind. This mindset also reduces regret. When you act as your future self, you rarely look back wishing you had chosen differently. Even if the choice is challenging in the moment, you know it aligns with the bigger picture. Regret comes from betraying your future self for the comfort of the present. But pride and confidence come from honoring the person you're becoming, even when it costs you ease right now. There will always be tension between short-term and long-term thinking. The present you craves relief, the future you craves reward. Wisdom lies in choosing the path that may stretch you now but expands you later. This doesn't mean ignoring the present moment. It means making choices today that both respect who you are and serve who you're becoming. Deciding as your future self builds consistency, integrity, and self-trust. Each time you choose growth over comfort, discipline over distraction, or alignment over approval, you reinforce the bridge to your future. Over time, those decisions accumulate into character habits and outcomes that define your life. Your future self is not a stranger. It is the version of you shaped by today's decisions. By choosing as they would, you collapse the gap between who you are and who you want to be. The more often you decide as the future you, the faster that future becomes your reality.